permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here, Fred shouts.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, Fred!
Welcome to episode 468 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, October 10th, 2024 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergan, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northern Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Walu, Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Grizzly Bear, May, and SSJ5 Goku. And by our patrons of the week, the Happy Hearthstone and King of Gurai. You can go to patreon.com/CoinConcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, Life and Ladder. We had some stuff happen, which did include a couple new cards, which means I was obligated to play Hearthstone today. That's how it works.
Also, because you host a podcast about Hearthstone, so you know
that's why I was obligated. If I didn't host a podcast about Hearthstone, I probably wouldn't have played today, or I would have dabbled a bit and then been like, "Oh dear God," and then stopped. But I had hopes that perhaps one of these new cards that was the one I was interested in experimenting with, that everyone has access to now, Nexus Prince Shafar, 3-mana 3/3 Spellburst, give a minion in your hand +3/+3 and this Spellburst. I had hopes that it would do to the, sea shanty, Rayla, something in that vein kind of deck what Skilla did to Big Spell Mage. It did not. I did not do well. I do not wish to disclose my record. It was unpleasant. Started getting better as I made some changes to the deck, but it kind of just felt like I would get hit in the face and have worse board swings than other people because for whatever reason, sea shanties still cost 10 mana. But the big issue is like there's a few really fast decks out there right now, between Pirate DH and some of the rainbow decks and then there's crazy stuff like Mage still making tsunamis. And Druid. And Druid has 40 health now, which we'll get into later. So, it was not my favorite time ever. I saw several Druids. And the added power of this neutral legendary was not enough. It was very fun. It felt very strong. I got a few games when I did have it. But that deck's still not there, and I'm kind of sad about it.
Yeah, I've been wanting to play Paladin Sea Shanty, and it's not quite there either.
No, you can sing a much sadder song about how that deck is performing than a Sea Shanty. I would think.
Well, I feel like Sea Shanties are often kind of like a dark humor type of thing,
Yeah, but I think you'd want to go into full on emo if you were going to be singing about Sea Shanty.
Full on Linkin Park.
Yeah. I've been. So I finally got around to listening to the new Linkin Park song, and it is very good. And I heard about all the controversy, and then that kind of distracted me from actually listening to the music. And so I ended up down this rabbit hole of just like binging all of their concerts from like the last 2 months that apparently are all on YouTube.
What?
Yeah. So that's just been like my background music lately. It's very good. She does a really good job, Emily Armstrong, of taking over. And like Linkin Park was never a band that I was into like when they were new, but like I've come to appreciate them since. So That also means that I've listened to the song in the end a lot, which is
Yep.
kind of the anthem for my ladder climb this month. Because I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it didn't even matter. And I'm back at Diamond 5, and I've been like hard stuck there for some reason.
Do you feel so numb, Wicked, now that you've just...
I want to burn it down is what I want to do. But yeah, so it's and it left me feeling like I was in the emptiness machine by the end of it. But in any event, it's yeah, I played a fair amount, and I've played more or less everything. I played a bunch of Rainbow Shaman, and I got up to like Diamond 2, and then that stopped working for whatever reason. And then I started trying other things that were more ill-advised. Like I played Pipsy Paladin first, and then that kind of stopped working because I just kept running into the bad matchups. And then I was playing the Rainbow Shaman, that was working out okay. Then I tried some Death Knight, and that worked a little bit until it didn't. And then I said, well, I'm tired of losing to all these druids. So I tried playing the druid. That did not go as well as I would have liked. And the druid mirrors, by the way, are not fun. They are just basically slapping each other with salmon for 30 minutes. And yeah, and then, I was trying some other things. I was playing some Orb Mage today. I finally won a game with that after losing a bunch. I've been running into just like a bunch of weird nonsense too. So I don't know. Like, it feels like the meta is very balanced, but it's very balanced in like a rock, paper, scissors way. That makes it kind of hard to climb if you're not like really locked in and enjoying a particular deck. And I'm like, I don't have anything against the decks that I'm playing, and it's not like I'm playing against, like, thank God that Excavate Rogue's bad, because like I would just be done. Right. So at least it's not that. Like, I feel, but it's like whenever somebody plays a Marin, I'm never happy about it. Right. Like it's just like, either somebody's always upset when Marin gets played. So, that's kind of like whenever you're cheating 30 mana, or it's either 30 mana or it's 3, right? And it's like one way or the other, that's somebody's upset. So
you will be pleased to hear that I faced and defeated, despite my horrendous record otherwise, an Excavate Rogue who had the frustrating to face dragon, right? The charge dragon, Valorok.
Oh god,
and
yeah.
Used over the course of like 3 turns in the early to mid game every single bounce effect on it. they did, both their shadow steps and both their break dances on this Valorok, while I was sitting on a customs enforcer that I had summoned off of Golgut, the cheese, Gorgonzormu cheese.
Gorgonzormu, yeah.
And
Golganath
I was
is
just
the Shaman Titan, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry. And I was just defending this customs enforcer with my life. 'Cause I knew they were sitting on.
That's my buddy right there. That's like one of my favorite card in Hearthstone is the customs enforcer.
They did eventually kill it, but not before I had them in striking range. So
yeah. Yeah. So in any event, I'm still trying. I'm definitely feeling a little bit beaten down just by that experience, but I'm still trying. So we'll see. Hopefully I'll just kind of find something. Maybe the new meta shake up. Maybe I'll find a Renathal deck that I actually like, though. Given how I felt about Renathal before, I don't know how that'll do. And and I have apparently progressed in the point of my commander hobby that I've bought a box for my deck boxes. So
it's time.
It's just practical.
That's all I'm going to say. It's a very nice box that was on sale on the Prime sale the other day. So now I have a box for my boxes, and that's just that's all you need to know. That's how things are going. So how about you, McGase? How'd your week go?
Pretty well. I saw my mother for a pretty extended period on Sunday morning, and then on Sunday evening she came down with COVID. And I have not tested positive or been like fully sick all week, but I think I I was definitely exposed, and I think I was kind of fighting it off all week. I had gotten it recently enough that I think I still had some protection from that. But anyway, so I kind of knew I wasn't going to do very well on many of these days if I played too much, so I didn't play a ton this week just because historically, if I'm really fatigued, it doesn't go very well. But on days when I was less, so I've been having a pretty good time. I mostly have had good success with Rainbow Shaman, which makes sense because it's really good. And it's pretty proactive, and I like that style of deck, but it can still have, it's spiky in like middle to late game, but it's, you put on pressure, you play things, you're doing stuff, you have like cookie turns. I, of course, had the one game where I lost just because Cookie gave me a Doomsayer. I didn't even need to trade.
Oh,
I was
no.
like, this last 1/1, do I do 1 damage to their face or do I trade it for an extra 2-drop? And usually I would go to their face, but for some reason I traded it, and then it gave me a Doomsayer as like the very last one, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's like the oatmeal cookie, is what that is.
Yeah. You get like a variety pack, and then it's just all oatmeal.
Yeah.
You're like, no. So, but overall, definitely enjoy the shaman. That got me to legend. I did have an advantage in that I somehow squeaked into 11x this month, even though I was ranked like 3,000. I think, rank is kind of a zero-sum game. Like top 1K is like sort of by definition a zero-sum game, but we don't know exactly how they calculate the MMR, except that 11x at least used to be an MMR of 3.0 or better, which of course means nothing because like you don't see your MMR, so how do you even know? I don't, for whatever reason, that seems to have gotten to a bigger pool of people, which I appreciated at least this month because I totally wasn't expecting to get 11x, but apparently didn't get my rank, my MMR down too bad last month with the wedding. So that was definitely a help in getting to legend, but also I had a good run with the shaman. I also played some Overheal Priest, which is still fun, and still didn't play as much as I would have this week just because of the brain not being there. I had one game that was an Overheal Priest mirror. And this is just, we've said this on the show before, but don't go out of your way to overdraw your opponent if it's not furthering your own game plan. I had a good start with a couple clergies early, drew a bunch, was expecting them to clear it. They must have had a bad start. Were looking at me going, I'm just going to lose this game. What if I overheal them instead? So they just like kept drawing me cards. But for that reason, even when they put their own clergy down, they were drawing my clergies to try to burn my Hedonis, I guess. But I have birdwatching and creation protocol to make sure that they don't burn my Hedonis. So I was just waiting for a good time to, enough mana and things to kill them with the Hedonis, because clearly they weren't going to kill me. I understand trying it. Like if you're really behind in the mirror, you're like, oh, I'm just going to try it. And it is true that sometimes in Overheal Priest, you can get yourself into hand space trouble with clergies. But generally, people are happy if you're drawing them cards.
Maybe they were confused and they thought they were Fatigue Warlock, and that's how you play the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Or that it was Northshire Cleric.
Yeah.
Yeah, never go full Northshire. Probably a long time player.
Yeah, with Northshire Cleric, it could work, assuming you were also that kind of priest, and so you had Wild Pyromancer and Circle of Healing, right? And so,
Right.
like, with enough minions in play, you would just be like, I deal damage to everything, then I heal everything, then it deals damage to everything, and I heal everything. And now you are dead because you drew 20 cards.
Yeah, I think if there was more density of heals, or if it was harder for me to draw Hedonis, because if they had actually burned, they really needed to burn like both Hedonis and Amonthul, right? Then I would have been in bad straits.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good chance that I got at least one of those.
And
right?
your power chord synchronizes so that you couldn't just take one of theirs when they played theirs.
Take theirs, right? Yeah. Well, and they're, a major problem in that deck is that you only have so many heals. So you don't want to be using your heals overdrawing me, then you can't win with your own Hedonis. So, which they'd have to do all in one turn, or I would just power chord synchronize it. Yeah. So, just to, oftentimes, even in smaller things, when you're not playing Overheal Priest, it can be really tempting to just like, oh, I can overdraw them. Like, only if it's all the same to you should you overdraw them. Right? And if
I
you're
mean,
drawing them
yeah.
a bunch of cards with the overdraw, like generally don't do it unless it's like a it's basically the same as like a Hail Mary rat, right?
Like
it
if
could
they
work
have
out for you, but
if they have 9 cards and you can kill a miracle salesman, fine, right? Like that's sure. Like you want to kill the miracle salesman anyway, so yeah, kill the miracle salesman, shove a card in their hand, make them burn something. Maybe it's important. Don't like start, I mean, or if you can somehow like burn them into fatigue and then you have a plan to get rid of the rest of their board, like sure, but like yeah. Just overdrawing them cards for the sake of overdrawing cards is like you could probably do better.
Yeah, most of the time you can do better. So it not as anything. There's times for everything, but
Yes.
overall, yeah, had a pretty good week with things. I just maybe in part because I didn't play a ton, but I did like this meta. I haven't had a chance to play since this morning when we had the patch, and I'm definitely going to think about what to do about druids because I do not like losing to druids. Even if I'm doing okay otherwise, I don't like losing to druids. It is interesting to talk about like what might work with the meta now, but yeah, I'll have to see what's going to smork them. I think even with 10 extra health, you can smork them.
It may take some time for stuff to develop because, well, at least where I am, it is changing at a glacial pace. Like I've seen a few Renathals, but not as many as I expected, and way too many elemental mages and shamans. I am really in the like.
Oh yeah, that was the thing I played too. Yeah, I played a bunch of elemental mage too. That worked until it didn't. Yeah.
I have not seen a single one.
Yeah, well, it was on like at the Diamond to Legend page of like Donkey's site. At least when I was looking at like past day, there was one that was like at 58% or something like that.
I died to a fireball.
Yeah,
I didn't expect it because I didn't think that was in the list.
Oh well,
apparently it is.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the problem is that deck. It's even if it's good, it's just boring as hell because it's just on rails. Like you don't. The decisions you make are like where you're positioning your minions a lot of the time, just because like you have to play the elementals. That's all that's in the deck, and like a lot of it, especially the early turns, you want the game to be over shortly after the early turns is match the numbers. So
I want to try something that's like got more spells and uses the new card, even though it's not an elemental. Just because I think it would be so funny to land that Spellburst on the Overflow or whatever it's called.
Overflow
the 3/2,
Surger, yeah.
And just have a board full of 6/5s and then cast a spell. And just give like a whole bunch of minions in your hand +3/+3 in that Spellburst. It would make my day.
It would be worth it, even
And
though it
then
usually
have
wouldn't
one
happen.
clear and then you die. Yeah, that's which has been my experience with that deck.
You've already got the screenshot, so did you really lose?
It's true.
Yeah.
You got to post it on Twitter. That was the real victory. The real victory was the fiends we made along the way. Anyway, so we have a lot of news. And this episode is basically all, this is making up for last week where we had no news. This week is all news. So we should probably start talking about that because there is quite a bit of it.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So, yeah, we started off on Tuesday. And Tuesday, just the way you know that this is going to be a big week is when they randomly have like a blog post announcing something for the game mode that you don't expect for them to be updating or don't expect for them to be updating significantly, because we got a blog post on Tuesday about them adding trinkets to Battlegrounds. And the reason you do that on Tuesday is because there's going to be an avalanche of news coming later in the week that you don't want this to get lost in. So there are Battleground changes. They added a whole bunch of trinkets with the new patch that came out today. They have duo specific trinkets as well. Again, we're not going to read through these because there's a lot of them and we have a lot to talk about, but There are a lot more trinkets that they added in today's patch, along with some new minions. Some of them are on theme for the new expansion. Like Archimond is a Battlegrounds minion that is also that's also, you know, a demon that's in the setting of the expansion. So you have some other, you know, new things like Patch Wanderer sounds, well, I don't know if it is. It's a Murloc. Actually, he just looks like he's wandering around the desert. I thought he might be a spaceman, but he's just wandering around the desert. He's just the lost fish is what he is. But that's fine. So we got a whole bunch of those. We got some new minions. They made some changes to the card pool as well. Specifically, the one thing that's most important is that Leapfrogger is out of the pool. So for you Leapfrogger enjoyers, that is no longer a thing. Bird Buddy and Mechanized Gift Horse are back in Beasts. Those are kind of the highlights. There's a whole, and an Oil Troop is back in too. And they adjusted some minions. That's all live now in Battlegrounds. If you're interested, there's a whole long post where you can read all the details. We're not going to read them for you because we have too much to talk about, because we also got today patch 30.6, which came with the announcement of the Great Dark Beyond, which is the new expansion. We are going to talk all about the new expansion in Decksplanations. Don't worry, in excruciating detail. So I will say for right now, it is in space. There are starships, there are demons, there are Draenei. We will talk all about it in detail. But that is, the pre-order is available now, so you can go in and pre-order that. They also announced in the announcement that there is going to be in lieu of what we used to have in terms of the fireside gatherings where you could go and open your packs early. There's now going to be a new tavern brawl that's going to take place the week before the expansion. So there's going to be a pre-release tavern brawl. It's going to go from October 9th to the launch of the Great Dark Beyond on November 5th, which is election day in the US. In case you need to distract yourself from the other Great Dark Beyond, you can play at the one in game.
Don't get so distracted that you don't participate.
Yeah, vote first, then play the game. Vote before you play the video game. But the launch is going to be on November 5th, so you can open the packs that you pre-ordered. Only the ones you pre-ordered, not the ones that presumably not the ones you bought with gold. They use, at least in the fireside gatherings, they didn't allow you to buy packs with gold. I would imagine this would be the same for this pre-release pack.
Yeah, packs that you earn in some way. So you can't dust craft things. You can't buy them with gold. You can get them through a pre-order. You can also get them through, they'll have various community pack drops, which we'll hear more about closer to. So you can get it that way. And then you can get it from actually winning the Tavern Brawl. Depending on how many wins you get, you will also earn Great Beyond packs that then you can use if you do another run.
So you can do packs with gold. It's just you have to spend that gold on the brawl and then win packs. That's
exactly.
the loop.
You will get one free entry. And then after that, it's going to cost 2 tavern tickets, which are the tickets that they give you for Arena, or 300 gold, or 400 runestones. So that will be something that if you want to spend your gold on packs, we don't know what the prizes are going to look like yet. They haven't announced that. So it's going to be dependent on what the prize structure is and how confident you are, whether it's better to put your gold into this ahead of launch or whether you should hold it and just buy packs. Like if you're generally getting 3 packs minimum, then yeah, do it. If it's less than that, you may need to think about how confident you are and what kinds of decks you're able to build with what you open. But that's going to be something that's a really interesting way to get people to be able to play with the cards ahead of time. And that kind of dark's not the right word, but that kind of quiet week between like theory crafting and when the actual set releases, there's usually like a week gap there. So this will be something. And then there will be a bunch of streamers doing this too, presumably.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to watch them, and hopefully watching them play that will help you earn packs from the drops. But we'll find out about that.
they said look out for more details on the format, exact pricing, and design insights. So we don't know exactly what the brawl's going to look like, but it may have some twists that we haven't learned about yet. But either way, it'll be an opportunity, to play with some of the new cards. Obviously, it does favor people who do the pre-order, which is on purpose.
Yep.
But it is already true that if you do the pre-order, you can play with a lot more of the new cards sooner when an expansion launches generally. This is harder because you can't use your built-up gold. And also note, standard packs will not include Great Dark Beyond things until November 5th. So don't open your standard packs early.
Nice.
They will not help you for the pre-release brawl. That's very important. We'll remind you of that again closer to. But this is an optional thing. It is a way to earn some of the Great Dark Beyond packs. We'll have to see how good a way it is to earn those, but and it'll give people a chance to play with them.
And notably, it's not like you, at least I very much doubt that it's going to require you to use new cards. So you could roll up with what you got, right? And then try and sort of shark your way into more packs. It's sort of like there's some like limited Magic formats where it's like everyone starts with 2 packs. Every time you eliminate someone, you get another pack to like improve your deck. And so you could, I imagine you'll be able to like roll in with mostly old cards, and just pick a meta deck that, is viable from that.
Yeah.
And then try and, beat people and do well enough to get more packs to get more new cards so that your next run, has more new stuff than the previous. I love this idea. Yeah. I think it's extremely well implemented for all their goals, right? Giving people 1 free entry. October 29th. So I think that's going to be after the theory crafting. We haven't been given a specific date on that, but I imagine it will be before then. Yeah. So people will have some ideas in their heads, maybe not perfect ones, because we all know theory crafting is like
this is part of why
but
I think playing older cards will probably do better on the first couple days of this brawl than playing new cards potentially. I mean, we'll have to see what the format looks like, but theory crafting is never like, oh, we've now solved all the decks. This is kind of allowing more people to participate in a type of theory crafting, and it feels a bit roguelike in that, like, unless you're double bundling it, you probably don't have every card you want to play with from the new expansion because you can't use your gold, you can't use your dust. So most people will be experimenting around a little bit with like, what can I play with the cards that I have? And so I don't think it's like, oh, well, the meta is going to be solved before day 1 of the expansion.
Yeah, I mean, even then you're going to have people just like, putting things together with like, chewing gum and silly and silly putty, right? So just because they're trying to make things work with what they got. But I think it's also worth noting, like, we've all kind of repressed the memory of the corridor sleeper pre-order fiasco. Like, they've definitely been trying to give more incentives to pre-order, and giving access to a card ahead of the release was not well received. This is a much better way to let you play with the cards early without necessarily messing up like the standard meta in the process, and either making that card not good at all. It's so bad that you wouldn't want to play it in standard anyway, which is what they all effectively did, or making it good enough that it would warp the meta and then force people into having to pre-order in order to play standard for that month. So this is a much better way to accomplish that. And then it lets everybody kind of get a taste of the theory crafting experience. And by the way, it might help them with finding some bugs ahead of the full release.
I mean, I view this as like a PTR week.
Effectively,
right?
Yeah.
Like, find bugs, find maybe overtuned things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt they will necessarily push balance like between this and launch, but they'll have a list of things to keep an eye on. Separate point though, I love that it's 6 wins or 3 losses, because again, we don't know the prize structure, but I think having that sort of shorter system of like capping at 6 wins instead of 12. It feels a lot better, so you can like get your packs and then rebuild and go again, right? Like many, I think the standard length of like events in Magic Arena is like 7 wins before three losses.
In best of 1, I think it might be less in best of 3, but in best of 1, it's 7 wins. Yeah.
We only have best of 1, right? So, yeah. So, 6-3, 7-3, what I think it is really nice.
Yeah. I mean, 12 is just, it's a lot. And then the problem is that you also really winnow down the pool of who you're playing against at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if this is going to be something that might be limited by ability to buy into it, then you don't want to have like people just sitting around for like several minutes waiting for a game to get that last win, right? Like there might be waiting for a while if ever, especially later in the week as people stop playing this because they've run out of gold or whatever. So,
especially for streamers, right? That I'm sure part of this is something that streamers can show in the week leading up. And, probably most streamers would have more resources to be able to do more of those throughout their streams. So you don't want them waiting forever.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It changes up the deck more often. And also just, I think, makes it so everyone has a more even experience versus like the few sharks are getting 12 wins and everyone else is getting 3 or less. So,
yeah. So that'll be fun. We'll talk about that more when we get closer, just because I'm sure that we're going to have a lot more to say about, strategy going into that the week ahead of time. But
honestly, this is the biggest news for me, right? Like expansions come and go, but this is a completely new thing they're trying, and I'm real excited about it.
And it's a heroic tavern brawl that also we can recommend that people who actually could use the rewards should actually play, which is something that we've not done for a heroic tavern brawl.
Yeah, it's in between cost wise, right?
Yeah.
It's a little more gold, but it's but you're getting new stuff early, right?
Yeah.
And cool.
How's that tournament feel? I'm excited for it. And I'm excited that theory crafting thing it's sort of feel can be wider.
Yeah, for sure. So as you log in, you're going to get one legendary when you log in, and then one legendary once you've played a game. So as you log in, you will get Nexus Prince Jafar for free. Spellburst is a keyword that's coming back as part of this expansion. Nexus Prince Jafar, which Edel alluded to earlier, is a 3-mana 3/3 with Spellburst. You have a minion in your hand, +3/+3, and this Spellburst. So you can chain those with sufficient spells. You can try that. Edel's tried. It's not worked out yet, but maybe somebody finds a deck that it lives in.
I've tried it in one class.
Yeah.
So
there's probably some place that it fits, but it's something people will experiment with that. The other thing, after you've played a game, you will get access to Avatar of Hearthstone, which is an anniversary celebration card. So, which is a neutral legendary 9-mana 5/5 battle cry. Open a standard pack, play all cards from it. So this is it's a druid card that
again
you could theoretically play in other classes. It's probably in a value pile like Reno Druid. It's probably fine because it's probably going to be just like another Razzle, like they don't get access to Razzle Dazzler, but it's probably going to be just like another Razzle Dazzler or a Gorgonzola Moochies or whatever. It's probably going to play 2 to 3 minions, then cast a couple spells. Maybe the spells help you. Maybe the spells punch you in the face. Who knows? But it's probably, I don't know if you actually get the battle cries off of the cards. I would expect maybe you do because it says play them and not summon them.
No, I mean, like, so does Tess. Tess says play all the cards.
It? Okay. So,
yeah.
So you get a couple bodies. You get, of varying sizes along with a 5/5. You get a couple spells, maybe a weapon, maybe a location. It's probably fine in the kinds of decks that don't really care about having a clear endgame strategy other than just overwhelming the board with crap and making the opponent deal with it. So,
yeah, I had a druid, play this. I forget if it was like as soon as they hit 9 mana? It probably was, which obviously was before turn 9.
Yeah.
A Crystal Cavern was played.
That was like turn 3.
And they got the Alec.
Oh, sure.
This 6/12.
Yeah.
So
that's a good
there
one.
was other stuff too, but it mattered less. And I think they already had some other mid-sized minion in play, probably the 5-drop finale one. So yeah, I didn't win that game, and I don't love the density of things Druid has access to now. That's just like, allow me to puke a board.
Yeah.
Whether it's A&R refresh and stuff, or Puppet Master draw a 1 cost of the Oaken thing, not actually Oak Heart, but
Dungar?
Yeah, Dungar.
Yeah.
Or now this new thing and get lucky with stuff in play. Like, it's just
or play Marin and then draw and then play the crown and get some more legendaries or whatever. Like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that is just kind of a board in a box.
When this costs 0 or 1, that makes it a lot better.
Yep. Yeah, most things are. So that's something you can do if you're a Druid enjoyer, or if you somehow expect to. Well, I guess you may be more likely to get to 9 mana if you had 40 health, which luckily you can, because Renathal's back for a month. Yeah. So as of this patch, Renathal is back in core. He will be in core until the next I believe until the next expansion, though it doesn't say that in the patch notes. Oh no, it does. It does say that. It says until the launch of the Great Dark Beyond. So it's only for a month. So if you really, there are plenty of people in our Discord who have strong and very pointed feelings about Prince Renathal. But if you are not a Renathal enjoyer, it's only here for a month, so it will go away eventually. It's not a permanent fixture of the meta going forward, but it is there. So, and it is unnerfed Renathal. 40 health, 40 cards. So do with that as you will. If you're playing a deck that gives you 40 cards and one of them is Avatar of Hearthstone and you have 40 life, you might get to turn 9 to play it.
Yeah. Well, I think so far it sounds like people have mostly just put this in Druid because it's Druid. Yeah. Because it's Druid. In Wild, they certainly use it in lots of other decks. World A was saying that like Corbett is even sometimes used it in aggressive decks. Now in Wild, they have much more redundancy of the same type of card because it's Wild. So it tends to be less important that you get this one specific card, whereas in Standard, a lot more decks might find it more difficult to do that because you really want a specific card. But I am hoping that we get, I'm not sure which way I hope actually, whether it just stays a Druid thing and then hopefully there's not too many Druids, or, I think people might, as it gets a little bit later, just experiment with Renathal and other things, and I'm not convinced it's only a Druid thing. Now, again, as we're saying, the patch has been out, as we're talking, for like 7 hours. So we don't know yet what the meta is going to look like, but so far, the natural fit has been Druid.
Yeah. I did run into a Renathal Death Knight today in one of my games, but I did kill them somehow. So I think the 4th tsunami might have done it, but that was still a lot. But so you could do that, I guess. But so that's something. It is a thing that is happening. Whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing will be up to you and what your play tendencies look like. But
yeah, I understand that it's the last month of an expansion tends to have a lot less engagement. This is something that's definitely going to get people talking. They did Genin Baku, etc.
Yeah, but Genin Baku was like several years ago. This was like 6 months ago that Renathal rotated out.
A little more than that, but not long enough for many people, I think. I do think I was actually pretty much enjoying the meta that we had, even though I wasn't able to play a ton of it because of life things. But so part of me is like, really, did we have to do this? But I do understand why. I am also glad that it is not, and I don't think they would have like put it in core actually. Right? Like,
no, it's not. Yeah, it should not go in core permanently. And just so we're clear, because there was some confusion about my feelings on the matter, I do not enjoy Renathal metas because Renathal, it's very normal to think that, oh, well, you're a control player, you would like it. No, because it forces you to play Renathal, and control decks want to have consistent access to answers, which Renathal does not do because it puts more cards in your deck. It is a value pile card, not a control card. And value piles are not typically what I enjoy doing for long term. So,
and it means that like, even if there were some viable control deck that you'd be interested in, yeah, it would be a tax that you would have to play it in order to have a shot against any of the other control decks, because if it's going to enter fatigue. Yeah.
And control mirrors are that much more miserable because they take that much longer, by the way. So anyhow, enough about our prince friend. Not my not my prince. So we have a new in-game event coming. This is, I guess, the Halloween event from October 17th to November 5th. So it'll be more event quests. The rewards will be 2 Perils in Paradise packs, then 2 random epics, a golden copy of Avatar of Hearthstone, and 2 tavern tickets, which again you can use in the brawl. So that's an extra entry to the brawl if you get that far in the event quest, and then a Daredevil Patches rogue skin. So that is something that at least you're going to want to get to the 3rd step of that event quest to be able to get an extra entry into the brawl, and then earn more packs off of that. There is also a note that follows this, that our current plan is that Hearthstone Brew and the gift cards that were added at the start of this year will rotate with the 2025 core set rotation. But that Avatar of Hearthstone and some other freebie card grants coming this expansion cycle will rotate 1 year later with the 2026 core set rotation. We'll let you know if those plans end up changing. So do be aware that all the Anduin's gift, Lyra's gift, Malfurion's gift, whatever, those will all be going away along with Hearthstone Brew at the next rotation. So that's kind of thrown in here at the end, but do be aware of that. We talked about Battlegrounds updates. Arena is updating with spooky sets. So Core, Ashes of Outland, Rise of Shadows, Darkmoon, Faire, Murder Castle Nathria, March of the Lich King, and Path of Darkness. So this is the last dual class season for a bit. So if you are a dual class Arena enjoyer, get your games in now, because it is going back to normal after this patch. Which should be with the next expansion in a month, because the seasons rotate with the major patches. There are some bug fixes. There are quite a few of them. We're not going to go through all of them, obviously, but they did fix the bug where Signature Skyla had the wrong disenchant value. I believe we talked about that either last week or the week before. And they restarted the refund disenchant period for it. So if you want to get your dust from Skyla and you held off, you can go safely do that now. They fixed a bug where Magister's Apprentice had the not less than 1 rule inadvertently applied to it. There are a lot of cards that I would like to inadvertently apply that rule to, but that's, neither here nor there. And apparently Carry-On Grub in the suitcase could reveal tradable cards to your opponent. So that's something that's not happening anymore. And, maybe this is why Sea Shanty decks weren't working, because they fixed a bug where we're playing a second Sea Shanty in a turn while Sunsap or Lanessa was out would not give the second duplicate Sea Shanty.
You definitely have board space for that.
That sentence doesn't even make sense to me. But do they have Rush, I guess?
Nope. They're just 5/5s.
So why would you need 4 Sea Shanties? Why would you need to play a Sea Shanty, duplicate it, and then get another Sea Shanty, and then duplicate the second Sea Shanty in a turn?
Sandcastle killed 2 things.
Okay.
That still wouldn't give
rushed
you...
one in.
It doesn't give you like 10 board spaces.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
It gives you like 3 board space.
So that clearly was
2
the
board
reason that
space.
Sea Shanty decks weren't working. So I'm glad that they fixed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't anything to do with them being 2 mana too expensive. It's fine.
Yeah. So, and there are also some achievements that aren't going to track exceeded quotas anymore. That'll help with performance. And there were apparently some daily quests that you could still do in Mercenaries that you no longer can. So if you were happening to try to do things in Mercenaries, then don't do that. So with the bugs that got corrected, we have some known issues. There were some login errors when the patch went live. Those have been corrected. But just in case you were running into those, if you happen to be watching us live and you tried to log in right at launch, there were some issues there. And there is an issue where Avatar of Hearthstone requires hand space for its effect to work. So it says open up standard pack and then play all the cards. So it sounds like the way that it's coded, you need to actually have 5 open slots in your hand in order to get all of the cards. So that's something that they're fixing. So, just be aware of that if you happen to be playing Druid, and if you don't get all your cards, that's why. And there was also a small number of players who were able to draft from the wrong sets after the patch went live in Arena. So I don't know if you're supposed to retire those runs or not, but if you ran into that, they're working on it. So hopefully it'll be fixed by the time you hear this. So that's the patch notes. And yeah, there's a lot. Yeah. And we haven't even talked about the shop updates yet, because we have those too. So obviously we have a pre-order for the Great Dark Beyond. So you can buy either the big bundle or the little bundle. They're still $50 and $80 USD, or 5,000 and 8,000 runestones respectively. If you really love Prince Renathal and you want to show everyone how much you love him, there is a signature Prince Renathal bundle for $40 USD or 4,000 runestones that comes with 5 standard packs. You will definitely be sending a message from turn 1 of the game when he shows up in the corner with his ha 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 how much you love Renathal. So if that's something you want to do, just know that you're going to have to play him in Wild after this month. So factor that into your purchase.
Wait, it comes with standard packs, not wild packs?
It comes with standard packs. I don't make the rules. So,
okay.
Sure. There's also this is a Death Knight skin for Bolvar Fuller Dragon, who is the Lich King after Arthas. And so that is, I believe that's I don't know if this is legendary or mythic. I don't know. It doesn't.
I think they're calling it Diamond. It's one of the animated ones, but not like the super animated Ragnaros one.
Yeah, it's not Ragnaros, but it's like the other fancy wiggly ones. So it's $25 USD, 2,500 runestones. Comes with the portrait, 3 Death Knight packs, and 2 golden standard packs. So that's something if you like Death Knight. I haven't seen that in action. It does look cool. Bolvar is a cool character. So that'll be cool. We have big news on the signature front in general, that they are starting to sell signature cards by themselves. So if you still do not have signature Sif or signature Raden and you want them, you can go buy them for $35 USD or 5,000 gold. So you can actually purchase the signatures with gold. Now, that's obviously gold that are not going into packs right before the expansion launches. So do consider, but if you do want those, you can get them with gold, or you can get them without having to spend the $50 to get the whole bundle. You can also get a random signature Titans Legendary for the same price. So you can get one of those 2 specific ones, or if you have most of them and you know what you're likely to roll, you can just go ahead and roll a random one that's not one of those 2, and you will get that for $35 or 5,000. So that it's good. They've heard a lot of the feedback about the signatures. So being able to make making them available with gold is a good thing in general, even if it's a lot. And making them available just by themselves without all the other accoutrement is also. We do have new portraits as well. We have a Warlord Draka portrait bundle for Warrior, which is $15 or $1,500 runestones USD with a card back and 5 Warrior packs. I don't know that we've gotten a Draka Warrior yet. I think that's a new character for Warrior.
Yeah.
And that's a Draka's a lady warrior too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So
No, and there's a new one for Demon Hunter as well.
yes, Fire Dancer Kylene is a new Demon Hunter skin that is 1,000 runestones or $9.99 USD. And there's also Carnival Cthulhu for Druid. I don't know why it's Carnival Cthulhu. I don't know why that's on brand right now, but sure.
I mean, that checks out to me. Druid's just a con fiesta right now.
You can also get Sexy Anduin, aka Prince Charming Anduin, for $7 USD or 700 or how much gold? It's 1,000 gold, I think. I'm going off of Ben Hearthstone's thing, and he already owned it.
Yeah.
It's usually 1,000 gold or
10 USD.
Well, actually, it's 1,000 gold or 7 USD usually for the returning portraits.
So you can, so you can get that as well. That is, I know there are a lot of people who like Sexy Anduin, so you know, you do you. There's also a Diamond Shutterwalk bundle. This is the original Shutterwalk, not Shutterblock. But there's a Diamond Shutterwalk bundle for Wild, which is $29.99 USD or 3,000 runestones, which comes with the Diamond Shutterwalk and then 5 Wild packs. So if you are a Shutterwalk Shaman enjoyer, that is also something that you can spend your money on. So that is everything that, except for the actual expansion. So why don't we talk about that?
All right, so as we mentioned, the new expansion is The Great Dark Beyond. If you haven't watched yet, like the reveal video and other things that they have for it, you can find that on the website. And the theme here, when the demonic Burning Legion invaded their planet, the Draenei? I always want to say
Sure.
Draenei,
I
but I think they changed it to Draenei.
I mean, you could also say Shaman, and everybody will yell at you except for Raven. So you know, yeah, we can say Draenei. We'll go with that.
The Draenei, which if you don't play World of Warcraft, it's like Velen. It's the like alien
Xyrella.
people with like Xyrella. They sort of have the like tentacle type beard thing, and they're like pink or blue or purple. They are aliens from Argus, but the Burning Legion invaded. Some of them got like corrupted by the Burning Legion, and some of them fled in ships and ended up on Azeroth. I played Burning Crusade way back when I was a child. I never actually like got very far in it because I was a child. And I don't remember the lore that well, but it's a super fun. If you're not, if you are a World of Warcraft person, there seems to be a lot of lore that's going to come up in this expansion. If you are not a World of Warcraft person, that's okay. The art is really cool. The theme is really cool. We were definitely due for a somewhat more serious, not dark necessarily, but less whimsical, still though very Hearthstone, very fun. I think the art so far that we have, like the key art is my favorite key art we've had in a while.
It's like Star Trek serious, not like The Last of Us serious.
Yes, it's very Star Trek feel.
Yeah,
for sure. In terms of the ships, so we have starships. We'll get to that in a second. But basically, the exiled Draenei are being chased across the cosmos by the Burning Legion while they search for a new home. So the new things that are coming in this, first of all, Draenei are now a minion type. So all of the cards like Defender of Argus that were Draenei will now have the Draenei tag. And then there'll be a bunch of new ones from this expansion. And the theme of the Draenei is generally the next Draenei you play gets some buff or some effect. So we'll talk about those. We also have Spellburst coming back. So it's the same mechanic from Scholomance. It's an effect that happens the first time you play a spell while this minion is on the board. They're not bringing back any of the old Scholomance cards. These are new effects that work with Spellburst, basically.
Yeah. I think Hearthstone has, with the exception of like core set choices, never done reprints, right? Like this is a distinct difference between the way Hearthstone does things versus the way Magic does things. Magic, if they're like bringing back a mechanic, they'll throw in a reprint of, older card that uses it with some new art. Hearthstone, at least so far, not once done that.
These are all new cards. It sounds like they were excited to find new ways to interact with the mechanic. And then the sort of big marquee keyword in this expansion is Starship. So there'll be lots of cards that are Starship pieces. These are minions. They act like a regular minion when you play one. So one is like a 3/2 with Divine Shield. And when it dies, if it's the first Starship piece to die, it will like create this uninteractable dormant-like, but not actually dormant, like puck on your board. Almost like an uninteractable location.
It's like the portals from Sargeras.
It's like the portal from Sargeras, which is to say it can still be proofed by Reno, but that's the only way to get rid of it. So you'll have that Starship like on the board, and every time a Starship piece dies, it adds itself to the unbuilt Starship, basically. And then at any time, you can click on that and launch it for 5 mana. It's always 5 mana, no matter when you do it. And then you get a minion that is the Starship that has basically all of the Starship pieces added together. So if you had 2 of those 3/2 Divine Shields died, now you would have a 6/4 with Divine Shield. If there was a Starship piece with a Death Rattle that died, it has that Death Rattle now. All of their combined stats, it can get as big as you want. There's no limit except for the game ending at some point. You're only having so many cards in your deck of how big you can make it. If you do launch it and then you play more Starship pieces later, they'll start building a new Starship. So you can launch multiple Starships, but the pieces don't carry over into new ones.
Yeah, it's not like you can launch a Starship and then it dies and you still build on that same one. It's like once you launch it, if it dies, the pieces are at that point lost.
There is no recycling in this world, no space recovery. Space junk will be a big problem.
Yeah. That would be quite a lucrative enterprise if you could get it to work that way.
Yes. So, but if you're worried about like getting Reno'd, you can launch it and then build another one later, but it won't carry over. So we will talk, and so any class can launch a Starship. There will be neutral Starship pieces, but some classes, 6 classes in particular, Death Knight, Demon Hunter, Druid, Hunter, Rogue, and Warlock, have dedicated Starship cards and Starship synergy. There's also some like non-Starship pieces that care about whether you have a Starship or have launched one or are building one. So, and each of those 6 classes has a unique name and art for their Starship, representing their role in the Great Dark Beyond, and I'm sure tying into World of Warcraft lore that I don't know about. And they look very cool. They're like crystalline. They're not mechs, by the way. The Starship pieces and the Starships are not mechs, which is probably good, because otherwise the generation and magnetic and stuff would just get crazy. So don't get too excited. But they're sort of crystal-like. I think they're controlled somehow by the Naru or involve the Naru in some way. The Naru are like kind of like biblical angels. If you remember Mita from Alterac, that's a Naru. They all look exactly like that, except for the one in the key art is apparently not Mita. It's a different one, but it looks exactly the same. So if you're not a World of Warcraft person, you will not know the difference, but it's okay. It's the same type of otherworldly being. We can think of it that way. Space being.
Space angels.
Space angels.
I mean, if Final Fantasy can have the Space Pope, then we can have the Space Angels. That's fine.
Space angels, they are like biblical angels, but without all the eyes. Just look really cool. Sort of crystalline.
Got space angels and space demons.
Yeah.
And there are also a space demon theme. We have the Draenei good guys, and we have Kil'jaeden, I think it is, and and Archimonde, and the evil Burning Crusade demons who are chasing them down. So there'll be a lot of that as well, especially in Warlock, which we got a bunch of Warlock cards. We got some Warlock cards and some Druid cards and some Mage cards to talk about today. So we should probably talk about some of the actual cards. So we talked a lot about the starships, so we'll start with what those cards actually are. So heck, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Here we go. So the pieces that we've seen, the starship pieces that we have seen, one is the Arcanite Defense Crystal. It is a 4-mana 3/4 taunt. Death Rattle gains 6 armor. Neutral. So it's just kind of a decent-ish taunt to play to help defend you while you're building your giant starship. And then it will make your starship a really nice impact on the board when you do launch it.
Yeah. So it's 12 armor, right? Over the course of, because it's 6 armor when it dies, and then it's 6 armor when the spaceship dies. The starship dies, sorry. I've been told not to call it a spaceship. It is a starship. So
it's 1 mana less for a little over half of a Frosty Decor. Like, it's not, I wouldn't say it's as good as Frosty Decor on the front half, but we know that armor off of a taunt is like not bad. This is only one of them, but it is 3 attack and 6 armor instead of 4. So that's not trivial. The other starship piece that we have a Druid starship piece. After you cast an arcane spell, recast it. Targets chosen randomly. This is a 3-mana 3/3 called Starlight Reactor. So we don't have all the Druid cards yet, but we know there's going to be like an arcane theme. And when it'll only cast 5 to launch your starship. You have this big minion if it's later in the game, and also you're a druid, so of course you have endless mana to cast arcane spells. Also, isn't Innervate an arcane spell?
I'm looking up all the arcane spells that druid has access to.
I think Innervate now becomes unnerfed Innervate when you have Starlight Reactor up.
Well, no, Innervate's nature, right?
Oh, it's Innervate nature? Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably good.
So the arcane spells that we have currently, and presumably we will get several more in this set. We have Bottomless Toy Chest, Sparkling File, which is the deal 2 damage. Your next card this turn costs that much less. And everyone's favorite, Sleep Under the Stars, is arcane.
Oh god, Sleep Under the Stars is arcane and it casts.
Yep.
Recast. You don't get to pick what it does on the recast, but it could just refresh you a bunch of mana.
Does it? As long as it doesn't burn cards, it's probably fine.
And as we talked about on the top of the show, even if it does burn cards, it's probably fine.
I would imagine if you're going to do that, right, you would just take armor and refresh, and then just let the chips fall where they may, as long as and accept that you might burn a card or two, but it's probably fine. But Sparkling File is also fine with that, right? Because then you're doing 2x damage and then discounting your next thing by 2x whatever that damage was. That's pretty good too. And if whatever that is another arcane spell,
Yeah.
Yeah. Could be some Alonius shenanigans or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're able to get more than 10 mana and you can do some Alonius shenanigans.
Well, I guess you have to be careful with Alonius because it could decide to retarget your face.
That is true. That's probably good also.
Yes.
So, yeah, you will have to be careful. There's another way you can get extra arcane spells, which is Exarch Othar is a druid legendary Draenei. 4-mana 3/3 battle cry. If you're building a starship, get 3 different arcane spells and reduce their costs by 2. And we did get confirmation those can be arcane spells from any class.
Yeah.
So you could get mage arcane spells, you could get any arcane spells.
Hunter has a couple. It's got Arcane Shot, Shimmer Shot, Celestial Shot, and Star Power. And then Priest and Shaman both have 1 apiece. And they might get more also in the new set.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, and that's a good example of a card that cares about Starship, clearly, and also synergizes with what the Starships for Druid clearly are trying to do. I'd be interested to see whether this is going in a more combo direction or not with the arcane spells. The fact that it's recast means that just a pure damage thing probably doesn't make as much sense, but you could definitely do something with the Sleep Under the Stars, and probably I'm sure there'll be some marquee arcane spell we haven't seen yet. It's probably a good thing that Tsunami is not arcane.
Well, you know what you could get off of Exarch is the Galactic Projection Orb, because that's an arcane spell.
It's legendary.
Oh yeah, maybe
though.
you can't. Maybe you can't get that then.
Yeah.
Well, you could get light shows though.
True. Yeah. I think it's going to be very interesting for like slower decks. Any of the pieces that cost 3, right, or less, right, that can be played before Arcanite Defense Crystal, so that you can get those pieces fused together. They have to go through your kind of mediocre taunt that's a 4-mana 3/4 with the Death Rattle gain 6 armor, but then it fuses with the thing you played before and becomes this much more formidable taunt for 5 mana on the following turn.
Yeah, that's a nice curve.
There's a neutral in the reveal video, the core that you talked about, the 3 mana 3/2 Divine Shield, right? And that goes perfectly with Arcanite Defense Crystal, like on curve. If they clear that minion and then they're forced to clear the taunt, and you get a 6/6 Divine Shield taunt Death Rattle gain 6 armor, that's pretty great.
Because you can launch multiple starships, you don't have to wait until you have the perfect starship late game. Like you can do 2 of these is perfectly good.
Just ship it
in the early mid game. Just ship it.
Indeed.
There's people in the comments are pointing out there's a lot of good mage arcane things that you can hit. Counter spells, shooting stars, star power.
Yeah, there's a lot. Mage is the mother load for the arcane spells. Like you want to hit the stuff off of me.
Am I missing any? Oh, Dimensional Core. That was the one in the video that was a 3/2 Divine Shield, right?
That's not on the card page for some reason. Okay.
But it was in the video, so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for Starships. And I hope it seems like the fact that they have different themes for it might feel pretty different, like invocations for Galakrond. You're building this up, but each class that had it was pretty different. So it's not just a neutral legendary that everybody's using that works the same.
Or excavates, right? Like excavates where they all have kind of the same base things, but then they're all doing very different things once they get through all their excavating.
Yeah.
This is a very third set mechanic.
Uh-huh.
Yes. And definitely a little bit tricky to explain, but we've been assured it makes a lot of sense when you play with it. Hopefully that is true.
Yeah.
But I think, they always do a good job making the art and the UI kind of bring everything together so that it's more intuitive when you play with it. And honestly, it feels more intuitive to me than like Excavate to know what's going to happen.
Personally, I'm excited about the Draenei.
Yes.
They revealed 2 mage Draenei. And already I've got ideas, and it's probably Magical Christmas Land, but they at least look like they go together.
Yes, so there's a couple Draenei that were like in the expansion reveal video that aren't on the library. One was a 1 mana 2/1. Hold on, that like gives your next one that you play +2/+1.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, these cards, the next Draenei that you play gets some bonus. So it's a 1 mana 2/1 Draenei Starlight Wanderer Battlecry. The next Draenei you play gains +2/+1. That one's neutral, so it seems like it'll be just kind of a staple to a lot of good turn 1 play for pretty much any Draenei deck. Probably we'll have to see what they look like. But Mage also got, as you were about to discuss, a couple of specific cards.
So these 2 go together. One is Ingenious Artificer, and it's a 5 mana 4/6 Draenei Battlecry. The next Draenei you play refreshes mana crystals equal to its attack. Pretty good. If you hit another Ingenious Artificer, it'll refresh 4 crystals, right, and then give you the same effect. But the other mage Draenei revealed is 7 mana, not great. 4/3, so still not looking good on stats, but 4 power means if it's refreshing, you'll get 4 crystals back to do what with? Cast spells, because it has Spellburst. So Spellburst, summon an Arcwing pilot, so you get another one of itself that will have the Spellburst again. So assuming you refresh 4 crystals when you play it on turn 7, you'll have 4 mana. Maybe you have 4 1-cost spells. So you summon 4 copies, and you now have 5 of these in play. And, they all have this ability, at the end of your turn, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. So that just seems super fun to me, even if it 7 mana might be too late, but maybe you run Skilla not for big spells, but just for access to coins. So you can do shenanigans both like with Spellburst and to get this stuff out earlier. I don't know. I think there's a lot of possibilities, and it'll be fun to go from like no board to a board full of Arcwing pilots and all of them deal 3 damage to a random enemy. I kind of picture it like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, the like not Nova core pilots, the like golden people that go after the Guardians. I mean, they were all like remote piloting them, but just like, there's one and then they all show up and there's a bunch of them. And it's a lot of damage.
You can imagine this like in a video game, like one comes down and you're like, all right, I can deal with this. And then the rest of the fleet shows up. All the other pilots have showed up to deal damage to you. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they do in Mage, and I really like the idea of the Skyla like using coins for Spellburst, using coins for something other than tsunamis. It feels more like using coins for good.
Yeah.
And you could even like Skyla herself would just allow you to run something a little more expensive and still then use it for Spellburst when you flip it with a coin.
Yeah.
At the cost of having an unplayable coin in your hand, which at that point, who cares?
Plus you could see Shill into it, right? So
yeah, play it for 5 instead of 7.
Yeah. So then you have more mana to spell. And you have things like Primordial Glyph, where you can just either make something cheaper or get a couple of spells to chain, right? So there's things you can do there.
Yep.
And the last Draenei that we got is a neutral. It is Velen, Leader of the Exiled. 7 mana, 7/7, legendary. Taunt, Death Rattle, trigger the battle cries and death rattles of all other Draenei you played this game.
Yep.
So, seems pretty powerful.
Seems good.
Don't know for sure yet, because we don't know what too many of the battle cries and death rattles are. Yeah. And some of them, like Ingenious Artificer, it's like, well, death rattles often end up happening on your opponent's turn. So refreshing crystals on your opponent's turn doesn't do much for you. But something like Exarch Othar of getting arcane spells that are reduced, like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Getting armor, all right, that's fine. Yeah, it's a little hard to evaluate with so few reveals.
Can I give you one suggestion? Adaptive Amalgam.
How does that? You would just
shuffle a Velen into your deck when it dies?
Yeah, you would shuffle a Velen, I think, because that would be what this is.
Are you
Or does it shuffle another Adaptive Amalgam? It might shuffle another Adaptive Amalgam.
I would assume that it would shuffle a 1/2 Adaptive Amalgam into your deck. But if it shuffles another Velen, I'm so on board. I'm so here for it.
The 2/1 buffing Draenei into an Adaptive Amalgam, that's not terrible. If there's other buffing Draenei.
I mean, yeah, in general, that's sort of fine. Yeah. A Defender of Argus, not necessarily amazing, but you can give it Taunt and +1/+1, and that's a Draenei and a Battle Cry that would repeat. So, yeah, we'll have to see. I think it's like, it's possible that Adaptive Amalgam will be fine in that deck as just another Draenei and a nice recipient of buffs. And if it works the way you're thinking, Wicked, with Velen, then that's awesome.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. There's also, like, Warlock has a lot of death rattles synergy right now. Obviously, Death Knight, we have one person in our Discord who is super into the death rattle package in Death Knight, and it's pretty off meta still at this point, but there is
Mhm.
Death Growl, there is stuff like that.
Yelling
in,
Yodeler, stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's enough Draenei on those classes that you want to be able to trigger this death rattle on your own terms, like there are ways to do that in some classes.
Sure.
Or to do it twice, like with Warlock.
Yeah. Or you
so-
could use that. What's that new card that gives everything reborn and then destroys all minions?
You could.
I mean, that might be very ambitious, but you know, this is the time for bold thoughts, I suppose.
Maybe that's why it was so expensive. They were thinking ahead.
Maybe. Okay.
Uh-huh. They were like, we can't have this being playable on the same turn as Velen. It needs to be 4 mana, not 3.
Yeah. I'm just sad that
Yeah.
it's not a priest card, that everybody gets Velen instead of just priest getting Velen. But you know, I'll share.
Sorry.
It's fine.
I mean, Velen is like the good guy of the expansion. Can you imagine how sad people would be if
So-
the good guy of the expansion
So
was just
Elise
priest?
and Elise was the good guy of Showdown in the Badlands, and she was still a priest card. Just saying.
That's true.
Anyway.
All right. Well, speaking of good guys and bad guys, we also have an unstoppable demonic threat. I had skipped Nexus Prince Shafar, and I
Yeah, we
suppose
already
since
talked
we were
about
talking
him.
about Spellbound, we already talked about Nexus Prince Shafar. Okay, demons are back. Demons. While the Draenei search a new home, the Burning Legion seeks only pain and destruction. Somehow, it seems like their forces are endless. Learn to spot the early signs of a demonic incursion, and you just might be able to escape with your life. So we had one neutral card here. 3 mana, 4/2 demon, Relentless Wrathguard. Battle Cry, deal 2 damage to an enemy minion. If it dies, discover a demon. So this theme of like you keep discovering new demons and they're just endless demons appears to be kind of where they're going, especially potentially in the Warlock set, where we have Foreboding Flame, a 2 mana, 2/3 elemental. Battle Cry, demons that didn't start in your deck cost 1 less this game. And
That's spooky.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's not the ones in your hand. It's just for the rest of the game. They cost 1 less.
And
You could do
They
this
had-
again.
Well, you can do this again in the sense that you have another one of these. Thank goodness it's an elemental. So
oh yeah.
you're not going to discover this as, one of your discovered demons and just like keep it going, because that would be
No,
silly.
you just play Excavate Warlock, then you get the thing that lets you discover 3 elementals, and then you get more of those.
I mean, there is that mech demon.
Yeah, now we have to look at all demons.
This looks like Hercules from the Disney movie. Not Hercules, the not what was the
Hades?
80s from Hercules, yeah.
I see it a little
Yeah.
bit.
But green. Like
Uh-huh.
like Hades if he was the Hulk. And on fire.
I'm now looking at like there's a lot of Warlock demons to discover that
Yeah,
would
there
be good. Including Sargeras.
Yeah.
Doomguard.
Can you discover
uh,
Titans?
Oh, maybe you
No.
can't discover Titans. Okay.
That's a good thing.
Moarg, Jewelfest, Wretched Queen, Enhanced Dreadlord. And all of these cost 1 less, so that makes them better. Infernal at 3 mana. Pretty good. Even if it's setting your health to 15/15, but if you're a Pain Warlock, you don't care. This is not necessarily a Pain Warlock, but still.
Is Phenatum a demon?
No.
No.
No, it is not.
Okay.
That's probably good.
Yeah.
And then one of your payoffs for doing all of this is the 7 mana 7/7 demon Archimond, which says Battle Cry, summon every demon you played this game that didn't start in your deck. So you can have up to 6 other demons and Archimond, filling your board in kind of a scourge card, but with demons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're ones that you chose to play. Not just completely random stuff, so less likely to totally whiff. But you have to have played demons first.
So this is why they put demonic studies back into core. Right?
Yeah.
Yes, I am sure this is why they put demonic studies back into core.
Because it hasn't seen any
And-
play really before this. So yeah.
And then there's actually one more Warlock card that's not in the blog, but was in the reveal video, which is Black Hole, 8-mana shadow spell. Destroy all minions except demons.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Plague Wind for all you magic folks.
Yeah.
Destroy everyone else's stuff except yours.
Yeah, or Winds of
Now-
Wrath, or a whole bunch of those. Yeah.
Notably, right, if you're in the mirror, well, then it's probably pretty useless because
Yeah.
it only destroys non-demons. But it still seems pretty good.
Yeah, or like Dragonfire Potion, right?
Yeah.
Like that was
Mhm.
the card that we had, except that everybody was playing Azure Drake back then. So it didn't actually clear the board ever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but the or there's ones, there one with like elementals, it like doesn't harm other, or maybe it was Murlocs. Anyway, it's one of those. Clear the other board. You're just demons. I mean, we already kind of had you're only playing discovered demons with shopper demon hunters, so I guess we already know how this goes.
Yeah.
But now it'll be with warlock demons instead, and I think it's a cool. I mean, people love Discover, right? But it's a relatively, I think it's a good sized pool in that there's quite a few cards here, so you're unlikely to necessarily always be able to get like a Doomguard when you want it. But you'll be able to get a Doomguard pretty often if that's what you're looking for, right? It's not just like so random that your opponent has no idea what to play against either.
And it's not more Painlock.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's leaning into a different type of warlock.
I don't know if Demon Hunter will also have some of this demons that didn't start in your deck stuff going on, but remember they have Window Shopper, which if they do also makes even more sense, right?
Yeah. Hopefully they're not giving that to them on purpose. I mean, obviously there's always a way to, generate things, but
Window Shopper, got a bit worse with some of the piratey stuff with patches, right? And some other less powerful demons going into the pool. But let me tell you, the new legendary looking pretty good as a demon to discover from Window Shopper. It's
Yes.
Zortoth, Breaker of Stars, a 6-mana 5/5 demon. Battlecry, add 2 stars to both sides of your hand. So does that mean you need 4 spots in your hand or 2?
no, it's going to add. It's reading the card does not explain the card. So
Yeah.
you get a star on each side of you. You get a star on the left. You get a star on the right. They both say, for clarity, they both say when this collides with the other one, deal 5 damage, but it only does 5 damage when they touch.
Right.
Not 10.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
It is admittedly a challenging thing to describe, but it does it poorly on multiple levels.
Yeah, and that is 5 damage to all enemies, to be clear, not just to one
Right.
enemy. It is 5 damage AoE, including face.
So instead of Magtheridon, where it does it end of turn and then end of turn, this is play out your stuff and boom.
Yeah. Once the rest of your hand is empty, then those go off, basically, is what happens.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't have to be empty because they could just sit there for a little while. But once you've gotten everything that was in your hand when you played it out of your hand, then you do 5 damage to your opponent. To everything on your opponent's board, including their face.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do hope that we get like a demon hunter deck that's not just shopper.
Yeah.
They seem to want this to happen.
Uh-huh.
I have faith it'll happen eventually. Hopefully it won't happen the way Big Spell Mage happened, where they like made it happen and then we were sad. But not everyone was sad. A lot of people have enjoyed Big Spell Mage. I'm glad they didn't kill it. But I'm hoping it doesn't become ubiquitous.
This doesn't even go with a big demons deck thing, right?
That's true.
The
This is
other
a
way I
smaller-
would expect this to get used is, rather than being discovered, it is running it like it's the top of your curve, right? Like
That's true, because you have to play out all the cards in your hand. So this is not a...
or you have an empty hand and you top deck it. And it's just 5 damage to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good top
Yeah.
deck. That is a great top deck, and it's only 6 mana, so there you go. Then it actually does, one part of the problem with it is that if you have a hand, it's 6 mana, 5/5 don't affect the board. But if you don't have a hand, it very much affects the board.
Right.
Or if you only have like a 1 cost thing in your hand and it's turn 7 or something.
So maybe
like
you just throw it into Pirate DH, right? Like that's fine.
Yeah.
Because like Pirate DH is going to dump its hand anyway. So maybe you just throw it in there, or like the stuff that's in there is not hard to get out if you really wanted to get out. And then you have a board clear in an aggressive deck, which you kind of want anyway. Right. So
yeah.
A board clear that also hits face, you know?
Yeah.
Best of both worlds.
It's a Scar in a way, right? Different hoops, but
yeah. And
different hoops, but kind of Scar. Yeah.
But if you want a different kind of board clear, can I interest you in a card that costs 100 mana?
Wait, do we have anything else left? Or is this
that's
the last one?
Okay. No, there's one thing that that was also in the video that I found that was not in the blog post, which was one more Druid card called Distress Signal, 4 mana arcane spell. Summon 2 random 2-cost minions, refresh 2 mana crystals.
Oh, that's pretty good.
If you double this, it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's free.
And it summons you 4 2-cost minions.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically a free cheese if you double it.
Yeah.
So
cool.
There we go. Okay. Now we have only this last thing.
It's ironic because your opponent should be the one casting the distress signal if they're playing against a druid, but that's neither. So yeah, so we have a card that costs 100 mana. It's a 15/15, which is not good rate just based on the stat. But it costs 1 less for each time a card was drawn, played, or destroyed. And it has a battle cry, destroy all other minions. So you basically Deathwing, original Deathwing, except it's a 15/15, and you don't actually have to discard your hand. But it's going to take a minute.
It's called the Ceaseless Expanse. And it's got kind of a Cthulhu-esque.
It's very cool.
Cthulhu over the galaxy.
It is incredible
it's very cool
art. It's really good art. So
yeah, I'm excited for like the golden and they have to make a diamond of this, right? Like
yeah, I mean, I can imagine something with like a whole solar system going because he's like looking over a solar system, so I can imagine like all the planets swirling and stuff like that. Like
a diamond at least, maybe a signature. I this is one where I'm like, please give me the premium, because the possibilities are so nice. But card itself also cool.
Yeah,
also awesome.
Yeah. And I don't like, we were having some discussions to the Discord about this today. It looks unplayable when you first look at it. And I don't think it's as unplayable as it looks to start with, because like if you just think about like how many decks draw a lot, like even just like every deck runs Miracle Salesman, right? Usually 2 of, unless they're a Reno deck. So that's a card that's going to be played, a card that's going to be destroyed, probably an extra card drawn on top of a draw step, right? Maybe multiple times if they're cycling the tradable, the snake oil a bunch. And then that's just one example, right? Like the cheese is 3 minions. It's 1 card. That counts 4, right? It's actually the Jorgen Zormu by itself is 5. It counts 5 against this because it's 1 that's played, actually 6. See, it even gets bigger the more I'm talking about it. So you play Gorgon Zormu dies. That's 2. You play the cheese. That's 3. All those minions die. That's 6. That's 1 card, right?
Yeah.
That's in almost every deck. Like you think about things like mining casualties counts for 5, right? So there's like all the drinks count for multiple. So it adds up. It's going to take a while, but if you think about like Reska's 20, right? And that only counts minions that have died. And you can think about like when that's online, like on average, that's probably online. Like it's playable by like turn 7, 8, and it's probably like free by turn 9 or 10. Right. So it's going to take a little bit longer with 100, but adding in played or drawn will help. And destroyed does include minions dying on board, even if they're minions that didn't get played from cards. So like the Demon Hunter's hero power counts, right? Like all the totems from Shaman count. The Silverhand recruits.
You meant Death Knight, not Demon Hunter.
Yeah,
I
did, but I still do that 5 years later.
Yeah, regardless, like the fact that it is everything done by both players, right, means that you look at 100 and we're really just not going to know how quickly this is coming out until we play with it. But I suspect it will be faster than we even think. because particularly in the matchups where you're going to need it, as long as you have like some other thing to clear their first 1 or 2 boards, this will then be getting online all the quicker because you are clearing those mining casualty tokens or those 1/1 pirates or what have you. So yeah, this could come down significantly more quickly than expected.
Especially, if anyone's doing a lot of generating, making coins, playing drinks, making lots of tokens. I was thinking about, like, on average, probably almost every deck has drawn, like, by turn 10, they have maybe, I don't know, 12 cards left in their deck or something like that. So they drew maybe like 15-ish. Doubled is 30. This is assuming no one's like turbo drawing their whole deck. So that's like 30. You've probably had at least 30 minions die. You played most of those cards that got drawn. And then extra stuff has probably happened. So it's probably not that far off then that it might even be free. And you don't need a 15/15 to be free. A 15/15 that clears the board.
It's good.
Does not even necessarily need to be free.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you're probably not putting this in an aggro deck unless you have a significant plan for how you're going to turbo draw, and even then, it's probably not worth it. But like, if you're playing in any deck that runs a 10 cost card, right, expecting to get to 10 mana, not necessarily turn 10 because Druid exists, but if you're expecting to get to 10 mana, right? If you're playing on Kiliax, if you're playing or Perfect Twin Ziliax, right? And you're expecting to get to like turn 9 or 9 mana, you probably just play this. It's probably fine.
I think this may run into some of the same problems that the original Yogg Titan had, right? Where it gets discounted too quickly.
Yep.
And they end up having to do something to make it slower because maybe even fundamentally changing how it works, right? Like make it not universal, but just you, and lowering the cost from 100 to something. Because, maybe they got the balance right. Certainly, this looks like something that the numbers exist as they are because it looks pretty, and because 100 is very flashy. But I mean, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited to try, and also kind of hope this doesn't end up being as good as I consider doing what happened with that Yogg, right? With Rogue, where you do like the giant Rogue based on drawing cards with the, shuffle your hand in your deck and draw that many cards. Gaslight Gatekeeper, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got Breakdance for this. And of course, Shadow Step. But Breakdance, you'll keep the 15/15. So that could be pretty goofy if you're like, okay, do all this stuff, maybe do a Tar Slick Clear somewhere in there, Fan of Knives, and then you play a Ceaseless Expense and kill everything.
And also drop a couple of Playhouse Giants after you play Ceaseless Expense.
As a treat, right?
As a treat.
And just in case, Breakdance, the Ceaseless Expanse.
Yeah.
And
you can do it again next year.
Still keep that 15/15. So, it's spooky.
I mean, I'm more worried about just Marin drawing this, playing it for 0. Like, that's more of a concern, I would say. But because like that doesn't say, it just says reduce it to 0. So all of a sudden you go from, instead of going from 0 to 100, you go from 100 to 0. That's pretty good. So that I'd be more concerned about, because that's more realistic than Rogue turboing this out. Because I like Rogue can draw. How much does Playhouse Giants cost? It's like 20.
20.
Yeah. I mean, 20, even then it's kind of a little dicey with that, but like they'd have to, I mean, they play a bunch of stuff, but it's still
quick picks, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe for Rogue, because the drawing method I think is slower than some of the others, like maybe you won't be able to get it down as fast. But yeah, it could do some goofy things.
It's a cool card. It's definitely a flashy card, and it gets the like theme of the ceaseless expanse of space across well, I think. So hopefully it's just a cool card that is playable, but not ubiquitous or excessively problematic.
I mean, I remember, Pepperidge Farm remembers when Shirvala was revealed at BlizzCon, and that was 25, and they were like, "Oh no, a 25 mana card, right?"
Yeah,
and That got
Hey,
played.
that made an entire deck, which probably now will exist in Wild with this,
Yes.
because
I mean, you kind of need to be able to deal 100 in Wild at this point. So,
You can counter those insane armor druids with the Holy Wrath Paladin Ceaseless Expanse deck for 100 and 100 cost card. Yeah, that doesn't actually cost 100.
It's
neutral.
It's
So it
it's
can actually
100, but you're getting on clearance prices. We can get them for you wholesale.
It seemed like the ceaseless expanse of space would never get you, but just living, it was coming closer every day.
Yes.
Every time you played a card, every time you even drew a card.
You know what?
Can't stop it.
You know what the real ceaseless expanse are? Those big box store prices. But you come to us.
oh god, yeah, that Holy Wrath deck, like that might have me dip into Wild for a bit because it's just so funny, right? Like you're gonna be doing pyro quality stuff to clear boards anyways, and then you get Ceaseless Expanse, and you just you Baleful Banker it, and then Holy Wrath.
Do you even have to do
100?
that now? Can't you just order in the court?
I guess you could do that if you haven't drawn it, right?
Because order in the court doesn't draw anymore, right? So
Correct. Yeah.
You just order in the court and then Holy Wrath.
You would have order as well, but I think you need an option for if and when you draw it.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean you just shuffle it back in and then you order in the court and you're good. Yeah. But you don't have to draw your whole deck anymore with Holy Wrath.
Sure. But yeah, and then sometimes you'll just be like, 7 mana, order, you're dead.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's just the challenge, is getting to 7 mana, but it is winning with style for sure.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that does it for cards that have been revealed so far.
What's the pace going to be like from here? I haven't
It's going to be a faster pace than normal because they want to have everything out ahead of theory crafting, and theory crafting is going to be ahead of the brawl.
Yeah.
So they haven't announced, I don't think, exactly when.
We're gonna know all the cards by October 23rd, which is 2 weeks from now.
Okay,
Wow.
yes, it is up on the the card library.
So the reveals are actually starting tomorrow, the 11th, as we're recording this. And then I think they're going to be doing some reveals over the weekend, but then the class reveals start on October 13th, which is Sunday. We start with Priest, which is nice, which means I won't have to wait too long to either be excited or disappointed, and we'll find out which. But yeah, so they're going to get through, and then Paladin's the last class, which is going to be on the 23rd. So we will know by 2 weeks from today the entire set.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
So we know what we're talking about for the next couple weeks, I guess.
Yep.
Topic planning is going to be very easy. Yep.
Yep.
It's good. We were running out of steam, running out of decks to talk about.
That's why they do it this way.
Yep. But we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at Concede.com, and we also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com, and write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede, and if you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. So, CoinConcedes, I'm gonna CoinConcede to Garrett Weinzierl of previous Angry Chicken fame. He hasn't been playing Hearthstone in a while. He's in Final Fantasy XIV, but he lives in Florida and didn't evacuate. So I just hope he's okay.
Yeah. I think he said he's okay. I saw him tweet today that he is okay, but good. He has to drive. He has to drive a ways to get a cell signal. So that's what I've heard from some other folks who are in Florida. That the cell signal is not great everywhere right now, obviously. Yeah. So, but I did hear that it's okay. Yeah.
And honestly, as much as I have distaste for the state in general based on its governor, I do really like CoinConcede to everyone there. And it was spawning tornadoes yesterday, this hurricane.
Yeah.
It just end times stuff, truly. They said this is like the most powerful hurricane in what, like a century?
Well, they said I heard the 1 in 1,000-year rain event used on the news last night. So
yeah,
and I believe Dark Lady cosplay was in the path of the hurricane as well. And I think I saw her tweeting that she's okay. Just had like a little bit of leaking into one of her closets, but she's came out unscathed.
Yeah, I mean, I my hope is that most people who chose to stay done so because they've weathered these before and have experience and maybe live in a more easily defendable, I can't think of a better word, area, but
yeah.
Well,
I think if you were more inland, like if you were on the coast, they asked you to evacuate. I think if you were more inland,
it's just underwater.
Yeah,
right.
If you were more inland, then they didn't have evacuation orders, so it was just going to be a bad storm.
Gotcha.
So, and I think both of them were more inland, but yeah, it's I will take blizzards over hurricanes any day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Oh yeah.
Like,
people have said, when I'm like, oh yeah, we don't really get natural disasters. They're like, don't you get blizzards and pets? And I'm like, oh, snow is not a problem.
No.
It's really,
like sometimes if it's real bad, you lose power for a couple days, and that's like the worst of it. But yeah,
it makes sense if you're from a place that doesn't get it often, and so like that grid failure in Texas when they got snow, it is a disaster because
they don't have
anything. Any infrastructure.
Yeah.
So.
If we had a blizzard where I live, it would not be good.
Yeah.
I would still be more afraid of a wildfire, but a blizzard would not be good.
We get the occasional tornado, and that's the scariest thing.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Well, I'll also concede to my sister-in-law lives in Florida, and I think not in an area that was hit as badly. But still, to everyone who lives there or knows someone who lives there. On lighter news, I will coin concede to a player called Overdose, who coin conceded to me the other day on ladder. Always, never expected, always very much appreciated. So, yeah, that it's very, very fun to, see people who are listening to the show who may not necessarily be in the Discord, but just run into them on ladder. So that is why I will almost always still accept a friend request. If you run into me on ladder, I will probably accept your request unless you were emoting at me during the game in a way that seemed insincere. So.
Well, and I will coin concede to Cora because she just celebrated 5 years on the design team this week.
Woohoo!
Which is kind of amazing that it's been 5 years, but because it feels like almost like she's always been there, and also that it was just yesterday that she joined the design team. So congratulations to her. The game's definitely been in a much better place since she's joined, and hopefully she will continue to be happy there for a long time to come. But that's going to do it for us for this week. So until next week, keep calm and just ship it. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.